My elderly friend's son walks in, ignores me like furniture, treats me like a scammer, so I stopped saying hello and kept showing up anyway. I, 21 female, befriended a lady who's almost in her 80s. We've known each other for almost 5 years, and she's a wonderful, caring, youthful person. She's a true friend. We spend a lot of time together, talk about our days, and help each other. I often get her groceries and even went with her to the hospital to keep her company. She has a son in his 50s and no grandchildren. Here's the thing. Whenever he visits her, and I happen to be there, he almost always ignores me. For example, the last time she introduced me as her visitor, as usual, he didn't greet me or even look at me. He does this a lot. This isn't new, it's a pattern. Because of this, I actually froze this time and didn't greet him either. It's reached a point where I feel uncomfortable and anxious in his presence that I just go quiet because I think maybe he assumes I'm taking advantage of his mother. That is absolutely not the case. I genuinely care about her and never ask her for anything. But since he's her son, I feel like I need some sort of validation from him, or at least that he doesn't see me in a bad light. I can't help but worry that his disapproval might affect my friend's perception of me too. She's never talked about these interactions between me and him, but I know she certainly notices them. On the other hand, part of me thinks I shouldn't care what he thinks. Still, the discomfort lingers. So Reddit, am I the asshole for being bothered by his behavior and worrying about what he thinks of me? Or even not greeting him when he most of the time doesn't even look at me? That's the truth of it, laid out the way I keep rehearsing in my head, like I'm standing in her hallway again, holding a bag of pears and yogurt, squeezing the plastic handle until it bites into my fingers because the door opened and there he was, and my brain just buckled. I'm friendly with strangers. I could talk to anyone at a bus stop. I can ask for extra sauce at a counter like it's a human right. But this man blanks me so hard it drains my mouth. He stares through me like I'm a smudge on his glasses. I'm 21, he's old enough to be my dad. And every time he ignores me, I shrink like I'm 12 and caught somewhere I don't belong. I met her because my landlord never fixed the stairwell light, and she asked if I could hold my phone flashlight so she wouldn't break her neck going down at the mailboxes. That was 5 years ago, which is wild because 5 years at 21 is like a third of my adult life. She had one of those soft, guilty smiles when she asked for help, like she hated to bother me. And I said, of course, because it was nothing. On the way back up, she stopped one floor early because she was winded and I started making dumb jokes about how the building was trying to train us for Everest. She laughed so hard she had to lean on the banister. Then she invited me in for tea, and I lied and said I had time even though I had a shift in an hour. And we sat in her neat living room with the crocheted blankets folded in perfect stacks and a plant in the window that should have been dead, but wasn't. She told me her name, told me she'd been in the building since before I was born, told me she had a son who visited when he could, told me she once danced on a table in the 60s and decided then that tables were for dancing if the moment asked for it. She said it like a dare. I was gone after that. Hooked. She wasn't a sweet old lady. She was a person with a history, with a bite. So I started checking on her when I got the mail. I knock, stick my head in, tell her about my day. It turned into me picking up milk on the way back from the store because she couldn't carry 2 gallons up those stairs. It turned into me finding her favorite brand of Greek yogurt because the one with the blue lid tastes like chalk dust. It turned into hospital waiting rooms when she had a dizzy spell and her doctor wanted tests, and no one should sit under those fluorescent lights alone. I sat there while she argued with the triage nurse about her birth date. You typed it wrong. Dear. And I took selfies with her when she got bored and rolled her eyes and asked me why I use filters that make me look like I live in a lavender field. We were friends. People always want to make it into some charity thing when you say you're close with someone old, like you're there to collect a merit badge. Screw that. She made me laugh harder than half the people my age. She told better stories. She paid me in tea and old song recommendations and cussed like a sailor when she lost at Rummikub. I like being there. And then there's the son. The first time I met him, I didn't know that's who he was. The door opened, and he breezed in ahead of her like he owned the oxygen. He had a messenger bag slung across his chest, and a press coat, and I could smell some expensive cologne that felt like it should have been a trademark. She said, "This is my friend. She's visiting," and pointed at me with that proud little flutter she does sometimes like she's introducing the Pope. He didn't even flick his eyes. He went straight to the kitchen, put his bag down, opened the fridge, and started moving things around like they'd offended him by existing. I said, "Hi," cheerful, because I'm not dumb about social cues, and I swear he let one extra second tick by before he made a noise that wasn't a word. He said "mem" at the yogurt. He said "mm" at me. He stood in front of the fridge with the door open, cold air spilling on his shoes, and asked his mother if she'd been eating enough protein. She said she brought me eggs and patted my shoulder, and he said, again. That was it. That was the introduction. After he left, she asked if I wanted another cup of tea, and I said sure. And we both pretended nothing had happened, but my stomach had that dropped elevator feeling like maybe I'd stepped on a line I couldn't see. It wasn't one time. It's the entire pattern. He shows up, and I become furniture. Once he came in while I was chopping apples for her. I had the cutting board, the little paring knife, the bowl. She was describing a movie she half remembered, something with a red coat and a train station, and I was half teasing her that she made it up when the door opened. He walked straight to the counter and took the knife out of my hand. Not rudely, not violently, just like I wasn't a person, like you'd take a spoon from a countertop to wash it. He said, "You shouldn't be cutting," to her like I wasn't standing there holding the rest of the apple. I said, "I've got it," and he stared past me at the sink. He rinsed the knife. He dried it and put it somewhere I couldn't see. He rearranged the fruit bowl. He told her she should be careful, and she said, "I am careful," and then told him the story about dancing on the table like a warning shot, which he ignored. He went through the mail like a customs agent. He asked if she needed anything, and she said, "I'm fine," and he said, And the only thing he said to me that entire time was, "Excuse me," when he needed to pass by, and it felt less like words and more like a sign above a door. I started going quiet when I heard his step on the landing. It wasn't a conscious decision. My body just dimmed itself. He'd walk in, and I'd fold. Maybe that's on me. Maybe I should be louder, brighter, more obvious about my right to take up space. But there's a specific way he does it that taps some old, stupid shame in me. As if I'm trespassing. As if the room knows him better. As if I'm doing something wrong and the adult in the room is here to escort me out. And then the thought, what if he thinks I'm taking advantage of her? It slams into me every time he swims right past my face. If you're reading this and you don't get how ugly that thought feels, consider the difference between cooking dinner for someone because you want to and cooking dinner while hearing, in your head, a stranger accusing you of some grifty, fake nice, sugar baby shit. I'd rather swallow a thumbtack. I don't take money from her. I won't. She tries to give me her change sometimes, and I shut it down. She offers me cookies, and I take them because refusing cookies is a crime. But that's it. I keep receipts for groceries on my phone in case anyone ever needed to see them. I'm not perfect. Nobody is, but I'm not a leech. And that man's silence is like a stamp on my forehead that says suspect. There's this one day that sticks like a popcorn kernel. We had to go to the hospital because she had palpitations. It was probably nothing, turned out to be nothing, but the doctor wanted a monitor on her for a day, so I went with her. I packed a tote bag with phone chargers, gum, a shawl because hospital aircon is aggressive and the thickest magazine in the world, so we could tear out quizzes and do them ironically. She was in a bed with wheels parked in hallway, and I was in one of those plastic chairs that turns your butt into a question mark, and we were doing fine. She was cracking jokes at the nurse, who pretended to be annoyed and wasn't. Then he showed up. He said her name, not mom, not mother, just her name, Crisp. And when she smiled, it was real because she loves him. This part is important even if I feel petty. She loves him. He kissed her forehead. He adjusted the sheet. He took her hand like he owns it. I said, "Hey," because I wanted to try again, to be normal, to be human, to be the better version of myself that doesn't keep score. He did that half-second pause thing again, like he needed to download the appropriate response, and the Wi-Fi was shit. And then he asked her, "Who is this?" while looking at the EKG monitor above her head. She said, She's my friend, the way you'd say she's my sister, and he nodded at the monitor. I said, do you want the chair? I can stand. He didn't answer me. He moved the chair I was sitting in 2 inches to the left so he could be closer to the side rail. Then he told her he would talk to the doctor. Then he left. I sat there with my tote bag neat on my lap and my jaw clenched so hard I gave myself a headache. Later, when he came back with the doctor, he stood between me and the whiteboard with her information like I was made of glass that would break if betas were exposed to sunlight. The doctor included me anyway because the doctor had eyes and ears and I'd been there all day, but the son let his jaw hang in that specific way that says, I'm not addressing this. I'm simply elevating above it. I can tell you with calm certainty that I have never wanted to be rude to someone's kid more than I wanted to be rude to that man. It crawled up my throat. I'm a person. I'm not a thief. I'm not a ghost. Say hello like you were raised in a society. But I didn't. I tucked it away. I pinched it into something small, and I smiled. The social lie we all wear like sunscreen. And because I'm me, I started thinking about what I must look like to him. A 21-year-old girl, no ring, dropping by his elderly mother's apartment with groceries. He's older. People his age read headlines about scams and caregivers who turn out to be nightmares. He doesn't know me. He sees my chipped nail polish and my thrift store sweater and whatever insecurity I haven't masked well. And maybe he thinks, here we go. Maybe he's right to be cautious. Maybe he's trying to protect her by making me so uncomfortable I flee. Maybe he thinks he's subtle. Maybe he thinks I don't deserve anything more than a wall of The last time he came by, I didn't greet him. I froze. The old habit, be nice first. It didn't fire. She said, oh, look who's here, with that little glow that never fails to make me warm. And he stepped in, and I literally felt my mouth lock. Not out of spite, out of that stupid child feeling. Like I've been caught with my hand in a cookie jar that isn't even in the room. He didn't say anything. He didn't look at me. He asked his mother if she wanted him to change a light bulb. And she said, no, we did it Friday. And he said, we, in a tone that tasted like vinegar, even though it was just one plain word. And I stared at the carpet pattern and thought, fuck you. Fuck you for making me feel like this in a room that feels like home. And then immediately, no, not fuck you. That's not fair. You love your mom too. You're trying in your own way. And then again, because my brain is generous with abuse, maybe he knows something I don't. Maybe I'm the problem. When I write it out like this, it sounds so small. A man doesn't say hello, and I spin a whole Greek tragedy out of it. But silence is heavy. You can carry 1,000 little silences and one day wonder why your back is wrecked. I've tried to test myself. I've walked in on purpose when I think he might be around so I can practice staying normal. I take a deep breath at her door and tell myself I'll say hi. How are you? Like a sane person, and then he does his invisible shield thing and my courage slides off the glass. There's one memory where I did squeak out a hi, and he said, right? Which isn't a greeting. It's a verdict. The whole room felt colder afterward. She made tea and hummed and told me a story about a summer job in a seaside town I can't pronounce. And I let the warmth of her voice melt it all away and then build it back up like a little fortress the second he knocked again the next week. I've thought about bringing it up with her. I say thought because I haven't actually done it, and I need to be honest and keep it that way. She's never talked about these interactions. She's never said, why does my son ignore you? Or he doesn't mean it. Or he's just shy. She said nothing. I've said nothing. The closest I've gotten is some messy half-sentence like, he seems, and then I changed lanes before I hit the guardrail. Part of it is I don't want to be the jerk who makes a parent pick a side. Part of it is she loves him and I don't want to bruise that. Part of it is fear. I'm terrified she'll say, maybe give us privacy when he visits, and I'll lose the one place I don't feel like I'm faking adulthood. So I make jokes about table dancing, and I replace the batteries in her remote, and I pretend she can't see me flush like a stoplight when he's around. But she's sharp. She notices. You can feel it in the way she passes me the sugar with too much care after he leaves, like she's putting a bandage on a cut we won't admit is bleeding. I keep replaying the best candidate for a confrontation that never happened. It was a Tuesday. Rain. I had on a sweater that didn't deserve the weather. I brought over a roast chicken because it was on sale, and I wanted to show off I could truss a bird like a TikTok chef. I was carrying the bag, and my hands smelled faintly like rosemary, and the door knocked, and she said, "Come in," because that's the kind of building this used to be. He came in. He took 3 steps and stopped dead because there was a bag on the table with a receipt peeking out. He didn't read it. He didn't have to. He asked her, "Did you give someone money?" in a tone that wasn't loud but filled the room. My heart tripped over itself. She said, "Don't be silly," and tapped the table like she was shooing a cat. He said, "We've talked about finances," and she said, "We're talking about lunch," and looked pointedly at me like, "Watch this," and I realized she was handling it calm, direct, with humor wrapped around steel. He didn't press. He didn't ask me a single thing. He went to fetch something from the utility closet, and I stared at my hands like they'd tell me what to do. That was the moment I almost said, "Hey, I keep my receipts. Do you want to see them?" Imagine offering an auditor your soul. I didn't. I don't know if that makes me a coward or sane. What kills me is the way I brace for his visits like they're a thunderstorm on a weather app you can't trust. He doesn't live in the building. He's not there every day. Sometimes I'll spend hours with her in a lovely, lazy bubble. She'll tell me about her first apartment and how there were mice, and she named them because if you name a mouse, it stops being a thing and becomes a character. And I'll snort tea, and we'll watch something trashy, and she'll make the nastiest, funniest commentary that would make your grandma blush. And then I'll leave, and on the stairs I'll hear his voice floating up the stairwell, and my entire body locks. I turn around, go back, knock, and say, "Oh, I forgot to tell you about whatever," and he's there, and I might as well be a coat rack. It's absurd. I know it's absurd, but feelings are not logical so much as they're loud. I'm trying to picture his side because I can't survive the version of this where he's just a dick. Maybe he grew up watching his mother do too much for strangers and got hard about it. Maybe his dad left, and he decided the only safe thing is to close ranks. Maybe someone did try to extract money from her once, and now every kind act looks like a scheme. Maybe he worked a job where everyone lies, so he assumes all smiles are sales pitches. Maybe his own kindness muscles atrophied, and he doesn't know where to find a gym. And yes, maybe he thinks a 21-year-old friend is a red flag because it can be. People do take advantage. He doesn't know that when we go to the store, I get the cheap brand for me and the good brand for her. He doesn't know that when she got that monitor, I Googled the model for an hour to make sure I knew what the beeps meant. He doesn't know that she texts me a sun emoji when she wants company and a tea emoji when she wants tea and a crown when she wants to feel like a queen. He doesn't know any of that because he hasn't asked. The anxiety isn't just social embarrassment. It's also the fear that his disapproval trickles onto me like oil and water. I worry one day he'll tell her something that makes her look at me sideways. He won't have to say much. He'll just say, "Be careful," in that tone, and she'll file under my son said, and it'll live next to her love. That's the part that keeps me up. I can handle a stranger disliking me. I've had bosses who thought my brain was decorative. But if she ever started doubting me, if her eyes ever did that flick to the side people do when they're recalibrating their trust, I think I'd throw up on the spot. That's the jagged truth under the polite post. We never talk about the interactions, her and I. I keep hearing that line in my own head because it's the proof I'm not making it up. She notices. She chooses silence. I think she's protecting both of us. If she names it, then it's a thing. If she leaves it unnamed, maybe it stays soft enough that it doesn't bruise when it knocks into us. She's smarter than me about this. She's lived through whole decades of people being impossible and still managed to keep her joy. She knows that sometimes the act of stating a problem turns it into a war. So we don't say it. We talk about recipes. We talk about music. We talk about the neighbor who wears slippers to the garbage chute. We talk about the news until we get too mad, and then we put on some old tune and sing along badly. I'm not a saint. I talk shit about him in my head. I tell myself he's lonely and has no friends, and that's why his cologne gives me a headache. Petty me wants to dramatically greet him every time he waltzes in. Well. Petty me wants to wear a t-shirt that says "not stealing anything, thanks." Petty me wants to print a giant receipt and tape it to the fridge like a theater poster. Real me just goes quiet because the stakes feel too high for performance art. The one time my mouth did slip, it was with my roommate. I came home, dropped the grocery bag on the floor, and said, "He did it again," without context, and she knew exactly who he was because apparently I talk about him in my sleep now. She said, "The son?" And I said, "The ghost," and then told her the hospital hallway story for the 10th time. My roommate asked what I wanted to do about it, and I said, "Nothing," and then immediately said, "Everything." And then we split a pizza, and I pretended mozzarella could fill the hole. She suggested writing a note and leaving it on the table with some completely normal line like, "Hi, I'm my name. I help out sometimes, happy to coordinate with you," like a sane human adult would. I pictured him reading it and making that noise at the paper. I pictured him throwing it away. I picture my note rotting in a landfill next to a broken toaster. I didn't write it. There's also the plan where I'd intercept him on the stairs outside her apartment, away from her, and say, "Hey, can we talk for a second?" Like we're coworkers who need to align on a project. I even practiced it in the shower like a lunatic. I made it through, "Hey, can we?" and then ended up ranting about garbage collection in the building to tile. Because that's easier. Because at least the tile answers back in my head. He's not violent. He's not cruel. He's not screaming at anyone. He's not even saying anything I can quote. That's part of why I feel crazy. If he called me a name, I could tell him to fuck off. If he asked me a loaded question, I could low mine back. But the nothing is the point. The nothing does the work. The nothing makes me leave early. The nothing makes me sit straighter and laugh less loudly and hold my breath when he riffle ES through the mail like he's searching for contraband. The nothing puts me back in my teenage body in a classroom where the teacher wouldn't call on me because I didn't raise my hand high enough. It'd be very convenient for the narrative if I had a big blow-up scene to report. If I told you I finally snapped and said, "Say hello or leave," and he did one or the other, and then we all learned something. I don't have that. I have 100 small cuts. I have the time he said "we" and made it sound like a crime. I have the way she squeezed my fingers after he left like she was sending a signal in Morse code we both understood without translating. I have the dumb, humble receipts in my phone that no one will ever ask to see. I have a tote bag that smells like hospital air. I have the stupid pride of having gotten the good yogurt this time, the one with the honey on the side. I keep circling the same question. Am I the asshole for letting this bother me? For wanting, needing, some kind of nod from him that I'm not a parasite? For not saying hello when he wouldn't even look at me? I can hear the hypothetical comments while I type this. You're 21. Who cares what some guy thinks? I want to be that person. I really do. But it's not some guy. It's her son. He's the person whose opinion could slide a wedge under the door and flip the whole table. Validate me? Not even that. I don't need him to like me. I need him to not silently accuse me. A nod. A hey. A basic acknowledgement of my personhood in the apartment where I have held his mother's purse while she danced, metaphorically, on whatever table life set in front of her that day. And then there's the other side in my head, the stern voice that says, "It's not about you." That voice is not wrong. His relationship with her is theirs. I am a guest. My job is to keep my own ego on a leash. If he wants to be ice, I can be sunshine elsewhere. I don't get to set the vibe of their family dynamic. I can show up with soup and stories and then step back when the bloodline shows up. I can take my discomfort home and scream it into a pillow, which I have very maturely done. But I'm also human. If we're all pretending to be polite adults in a society, the bare minimum is eye contact and a syllable. He doesn't owe me warmth. He owes me nothing except the same basic civility I'd give a stranger holding an elevator. That's it. That's the whole invoice. Payable on receipt. I'm not going to stop being her friend. This isn't one of those dramatic posts where I say, "and then I blocked his mother." The weirdest, most beautiful thing about getting close to someone with decades on you is how it rearranges your understanding of time. She moves slower. I move faster. We meet in the middle. She tells me to buy better shoes. I tell her watch a dumb show with subtitles too small. She says, "Oh hell," when she drops a spoon, and I love it so much I want to bottle it. I'm not giving that up because a man can't spare a hello. If anything, his frost makes me more stubborn. It makes me want to show up more, cook more, laugh louder. Show, don't tell. If he's waiting for me to show cracks, he can bring a chair because we'll be here a while. Still, the worry sticks like gum. It sticks when I'm buying bread, and I wonder if picking the nicer loaf will look bad. It sticks when she offers me a box of chocolates someone gave her, and I hesitate like it's an ethics exam. It sticks when I'm at the sink washing 2 cups, and I hear his steps, and I dry my hands so fast I drop the towel. It sticks when she looks at me with that soft pride, and I think, don't go anywhere. Don't let a word from him move you an inch. I wish I had a tidy moral. I don't. I have this messy, ordinary thing many people deal with, the collision between chosen family and blood family, the way they jostle for space in a living room, the way small gestures become codes. If you're looking for more data points, I never ask her for anything. If she offers me leftovers, I say yes if I want them and no if I don't, like a normal person. I don't have keys to her place. I don't handle her money. I set up her phone so the font is bigger, but I didn't save my number as emergency or some manipulative garbage. I show up when she asks or when I think she might like company. I leave when I should. She has her own life. She has bingo. She has friends her age who talk to me like I'm a visiting niece and try to set me up with their grandsons. She has her son. She loves him. I'm not trying to be a second child. I'm trying to be a good friend and a decent human who returns the kindness older women showed me when I was little and confused and my own mother was busy surviving. Maybe the detail that will make you decide is this. After the no greeting day, when I froze and failed to say hi, I went home and sat on my bed and wrote out on a scrap of paper. Next time, say hello anyway. I put in my wallet behind my bus pass because I see it every day there. It's stupid. It's small. It's my version of not letting him shape me. It's also my way of keeping myself honest. If I ask the internet whether I'm the asshole, I should also ask myself if I'm doing the thing I expect of others. Sometimes I hate that I have to be the bigger person at 21 when a 50-something can't be the medium person. Sometimes I hate that being mature often means eating your feelings like they're your vegetables. But I'm trying. I will probably freeze again. Habit is a beast. If it happens, I'll forgive myself and try again next time. If he keeps being a wall, I'll keep being a person. If someday he decides to ask me a question or even accidentally lock eyes with me, I'll be ready with a normal sentence like, "Nice to meet you," and the world will fail to end. In the meantime, I'll buy the good yogurt with the honey. I'll bring pears because she likes pears. I'll watch her delete emails one by one because she doesn't trust the select all button. I'll hold her hand in a waiting room if she wants. I'll laugh at the same story because it's got new corners every time. I'll keep my receipts, not because I owe him a spreadsheet, but because it's a small kindness to future me if I ever need proof that my heart did what it said on the label. And if you're the kind of person who schemes to the end to see the ask, yes, I'm asking. Am I the asshole for being bothered by his behavior, for worrying about what he thinks of me, for not greeting him when he most of the time doesn't even glance my way? Or am I just a human who wants the minimal sign that the other humans in the room know she exists? Because some days it feels like I'm yelling into a jar with the lid on, and other days it feels like I'm standing exactly where I should be, pouring tea for a woman who once danced on a table because a song told her to, and both of those things can be true at the same time.